Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Brian. We're going to continue on today looking at some special selections. Our first one today coming at us from Uzela. Hey, I really like your content and I'd like to thank you for all the bands and music I've discovered with your videos. Awesome, I'm glad. So one of my favorite things about this is the music discovery aspect of it all. I'd love to hear you talk about this song. It's a Math-ier post-hardcore band with a lot of cool rhythm ideas. Cheers. So, let's dive into it. We're going to look at Satyr, who we have had on the channel before. I think only on live streams, though. I kind of know what I'm getting in for here, but I don't think we've listened to this track before, Picayune. So, let's dive into it and see what Satyr is bringing to the table today. Yeah, okay. So not only are we operating with a 9-beat phrase, but when we start over, we start on the and of one of the next, which makes it sound like we're hanging on just a hair bit longer than we actually are. Really nice idea right there. The transition was tons of tension. Back to our opening riff. So we actually had a 4 against 4.5 going on there. Bringing in a noisy element with the dissonance of the guitars. Some fun tapping going on in the back. That. Oh, Aesop sounds familiar. I think that's what we've checked out. The band logo is just very familiar though. I know I've seen that before. But I think maybe we have done a full video on Aesop too. All right, so when it was described to me as math rock meets post-hardcore, I wasn't expecting something as post-hardcore as this. Math rock is a flavor that, at least to me, tends to dominate whatever it's a part of. Because the thing is, with math rock, a lot of it's excessive. There are certainly some more restrained math rock out there, but the most prominent groups in the math rock field, to me, are the ones who are way over the top. We're talking about the weird time signatures, we're talking about ridiculous tapping, no strumming allowed territory, groups like Covet and Chan and even Polyphia to an extent. This was a more restrained, mathy element that got put on top of a post-hardcore bass, and it's a medium point that I think works really well for me. Math rock as a whole is a genre that is filled with virtuosos. I am constantly having to pick my jaw up off the floor when I listen to math rock or see a performance of it. The skills of these guitarists, drummers, bassists is phenomenal. But I'm not going to say never, it rarely connects with me emotionally. It's rarely something I want to continue to enjoy. I'm there for the spectacle, and spectacle is a novelty. It wears off. This has a lot of sound to it that still appeals to me while including Math-ier concepts. I don't think this ever dives into math rock in full. So let's explore why. We start off the song with an interesting 9-beat phrase. Already off to some mathy beginnings. There isn't a lot of noodling going on in here. We primarily set the stage with some rhythmic ideas, some harmonic ideas, and that's kind of it. We have some triads done in rhythmic ways that create syncopation and groove against a typical 4/4, also presenting itself with a 1-beat tail. We have 2 bars of 4/4 and then just an extra beat lying over. That's 4 plus 4 plus 1 that gives us our 9-beat phrase. What's interesting, as I mentioned during the reaction, is that coming off of this 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, we come back to the 1 to start the phrase over again, but we actually come in on the and of 1, the second half of the beat. It actually felt like for a while to me that we were actually doing 9.5 beats, which would put us in 19/8 territory. That was kind of bonkers, but the more I listened to it, the more I realized we just weren't starting on the downbeat. The bar begins and then we play. It's just a bit delayed, and that combined with the odd time signature creates a real strong sense of metric wonkiness going on. It actually isn't that complex. Add an extra beat and then start a beat behind when we repeat, but it feels odd. It takes a while to figure out what's going on. It takes a while to get used to it. And it's effective. And that's actually one of the things that I think is their strength, is maximum efficiency. They create really effective ideas out of very tiny changes. What they add and how they push against the norms are nuanced. But the repercussions of those ideas are widely felt. And this intro is that in a perfect nutshell. Just change a couple little things here, and the entire beginning is difficult to follow. And I think that's awesome. One, it makes it easier for me. The less moving pieces to a puzzle, the easier it is for me to figure out what's happening. But also, I think it's a really, I'm a man of middles. I really am. I'm not a huge fan of extremes generally. And so to have the rhythmic spice of this, while also an easily accessible answer for what's happening, allows me to get into the groove of it much faster. It doesn't become a hurdle to enjoy the music, it becomes an extra spice to the flavor profile. And that just, it really, really works for me personally. Now, other ways that we have mathy concepts in here, we do have a bit of that heavy tapping at the end, but that was over 4/4. We do have some wild shifts, which isn't necessarily relegated just to math rock, but it is something, at least the style that they did it, especially moving from the big chords and excessive drum fill down to like the cross stick on the snare. 100% reminds me of Soku no Naru. That's just, it's something they do all the time. And then the fact that we had like 2 bars of that and we bump back up to like the punchy post-hardcore stuff, just bouncing around, not just between styles, but like genres entirely, and melding genres together, merging a little bit of jazz into this rock, into this hardcore, um, and just pulling it all together with these meaty breakdowns and uh, soaring guitar lines, catchy melodies, the growls, the heavy breakdown in the middle. I mean, it's just, it's all over the place. It's everything all the time, constantly. That's just such a modern math rock thing to do. Um, so like, yeah, that's kind of mathy, but that's honestly where it ends for me. There are a couple of sections in here with interesting time signatures. We have a lot of harsh juxtapositions between styles entirely and soundscapes, and a little bit of tapping there at the end. Everything else in the song to me reads as post-hardcore. And that's why I think the math rock is more of a spice on this rather than a blending of two styles. Where I'm not putting this on the requester's description and saying it was described to me wrong. You know, I'm not saying that. This is just a personal thing. When I read that it's a blend of two styles, blend I tend to take very literally as 50-50. We're mixing the two. I'm looking for how they influence each other. And this ended up being more like 80-20, leaning more towards post-hardcore, and that absolutely works for me. Um, and I'm just, that's one of those situations where the way that I read it and the way that I misunderstood it was for a benefit, because it had me ready for something I wasn't necessarily going to enjoy. Like I said, math rock is impressive but tends to bounce off of me, and the song just blew me away. So that's always a lot better than having high expectations and not meeting them and feeling a bit unimpressed. Now, I mentioned on the other side of this, we do have the post-hardcore side. That is where I think our vocals come from. The melodic lines here remind me a lot of post-hardcore bands, emo bands, pop rock bands. It's very catchy, very infectious melody lines that usually sit around a single note and just kind of hover around it and create these simple lines that work very well above the music. Musically, we're playing around a lot with chords and textures and rhythms. Something that post-hardcore does really well. Occasionally you'll get a nice melody, but the vocals are sort of there for that, depending on the band. Some bands like to put more melody in, some like to have less melody. And then, of course, we had the heavy breakdown section in the middle. We had screaming, and we had even heavier guitars. I think they distorted them more. Chaos, tons of drums. Just let me take a moment here. I love the drumming in this, right? You know, I think most people really like the bassist was real sick. Had some nice lines, kept up with the guitar work. The guitars had the tapping there. The vocalist had beautiful vocals. Like everybody's killing it. But I want to talk about the drummer. There is so much variety on display here. And there's even going to be some elements that I've probably missed. There is some technical melodic drumming in here. There is some really solid sitting in the pocket punk style drumming, keeping the intensity and pressure moving forward while mostly being a metronome for everyone else. Sort of keeping that double time feel to push the energy forward while everyone else is keeping the heaviness and the weight of the sound. Typical post-hardcore stuff. We also had the cross stick section, which, what? Not only did it sound phenomenal and was a fantastic direction to take there, but cross sticking just doesn't come up too often in much of anything outside of jazz and some lighter rock. It's just, it's such a staple technique of drum kit playing and snare playing in general. You watch like drum corps stuff, they do cross stick. But it's a staple. Like it's one of the basic things you can do with a snare, and it's just as common as it is, skill wise, it just isn't present in modern music often at all. I'm sure there's some niche genre that I don't know of that heavily utilizes it that is still quite popular and being made today. But as far as I hear, pop, hip hop, rock, metal, everything coming out, it just it doesn't happen. Not often. And it's so nice to hear it here. It just kind of pulls it out like nothing. I'm like, yeah, that's good. That's good. We need more of that. Um, so yeah, like we have safe sitting in the pocket. We have driving forward. We have these little nice sounds. The cross stick. We have melodic drumming at times. The fills in here are sick. He can fill space when he needs to and be sparse when he needs to. It's just the drumming I think makes all of this. Which honestly, now that I think about it, the drumming is kind of make or break for post-hardcore bands. At least in my opinion, the singer needs to have character. They need to be a frontman, more so than say metal with growling. There are certainly elements and techniques and textures to growling. Not everyone can growl in every band, but I feel like if you swapped out harsh vocalists in most bands, it's not going to affect too much. But when it comes to like pop emo, post-hardcore, radio rock, you swap out vocalists and you've changed the band. The vocalists are very important, but I think something that most people don't think about is how important the drummer is to post-hardcore. And I do think there are a lot of bands I've listened to, especially when I was younger, and I didn't know how to analyze music like this. And I would just hear it and I'm like, I don't know. It sounds okay, but it's bouncing off of me. Like on paper, this should be good, but I'm not enjoying it. I guarantee every single one of those times was the drummer. And this drummer just kills it. It elevates the band. And the band is already doing great. That's what's all. Everybody's just firing on all cylinders. And yeah, it's phenomenal. I'm going to take a second to hit some lyrics. Because like everything else is going to be minor. Like the structure in this is bonkers, semi-linear. I couldn't even follow it. There's a lot of little ideas I missed. So many like 1 and 2 bar ideas that I don't remember. They were like, bam, we did that. Now we're doing something else. This is certainly a song that is quite dense and moves at a rapid pace. It needs multiple listens. But first time reaction. This is what I got out of it. Solid drumming. Sorry, exceptional drumming. Everyone else was solid, doing what they need to do. And a really nice mixture objectively between Math-ier, more progressive sounds, and that post-hardcore bass. So let's hit some lyrics, see what's going on there. Lyrically, I have no idea what's going on. This is dense with ideas. It seems to be about some sort of larger attempts to do something. The something's a bit vague to me. Nefarious on a very large scale. Something about, um, I don't know, those in powers sharing goals that allow them to control things. It kind of makes sense. My confusion, once you start getting into the way that things are stated, not only are the sentences a bit, well, dense in vocabulary, but the sentences seem to be tenuously strung together. I'm not going to say that all of it is exceptionally cohesive. I think if you get all the individual pieces, it'll make sense. All the strings will be, oh, that's how that connects to that one. But without knowing exactly what each sentence is about, it almost seems like we jump around between ideas at times. For instance, the opening verse, masquerade of malpractice revealed as adequate process towards self-assurance, discomfort amplified by lenses, resemblance of our time spent alone, calculate clear mind, set aside in reoccurrence. There's this element that all of the stuff that seems to be oversight that happens around us, the masquerade of malpractice, a lot of bad things happening around, but it's revealed that it's an adequate process towards self-assurance. It's okay if you do wrong. It kind of works in the roundabout way because we can realize who we are through that. I think that's what's being said there, at least. It oftentimes, as I was reading this and like, maybe this is what they're talking about, it really is that maybe it's a stretch. It's the grasping of straws. um, we get to verse 2. Independently persuade foreign complementaries, hoping to recalculate, reconstruct what we conceive. Misconstruction animates forward beyond centuries. That there are powers at play that hope to persuade things outside of their own realms. And through that persuasion, have control over centuries into the future. Possibly, as he says, beyond centuries. That the actions of a few have the ability to dictate the lives of people long after they are dead. Again, this to me feels like a power struggle of a few to control the many. That's what I get out of it. I know I'm injecting a little bit of my own biases into it. Verse 3 says, goals shared by individuals carry those who follow the nature of parameters set in place to protect silently elected leaders. Cowardice consumed by intent, relying only on ambition and drive. Some say carry it forward through time. I think the line that really hits me, though, says, pray for consequences, because I'm tired. But I'm still suffering from your decisions. It's, yeah, I feel that. I feel that so powerfully. This time, I'm so tired of fighting this, but this time I hope there's consequences for the malpractice I see. Regardless, as he says, but I'm still suffering. Regardless of if these people face consequences, their decisions will still affect me and mine and my kin and their kin for centuries to come. Very powerful lyrics. At least what I think I grasp of them. Interesting to pair them with such fun music. I don't really see too many parallels there, but maybe the division between the two is the point. I don't know how, maybe it's just to juxtapose the sounds, but it could also just, yeah. Sorry, it could also just be a moment of the music being written from a different perspective of the lyrics, writing the music first, having lyrics on hand, wanting to sing about these topics, and putting them together as many bands do. Those are my thoughts on Satyr's Picayune. This is really interesting too. On Genius, they're called Satyr Atlanta. It seems there's another SATA that is US based. Which is very, because usually, you'll see that and then the country they're from. Usually, when a band shares a name, not usually from the same country. So I thought that was interesting. I've never seen that before. It gives their city, Atlanta, Georgia. Anyways, those are my thoughts. What are yours on this track? Do you have anything you'd like to add on to what I said? Correct me on, give me your own perspective or opinion on. Put all that stuff down in the comment section. Above that in the description box is a link for Linktree. It'll take you to this menu right here. I have to enunciate very very intently, or else I start slurring everything together. It's my redneck. It comes out real easy. Takes you to this menu. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell, I greatly appreciate all three of those. Alright, that wraps this one up. We do have another video today. It's going to be another special selection, as is the case all week. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, with the music you listen to, and remember, I already said remember. Have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.